the next lecturer has every qualification to follow such a lecture. The subject, technique, the lever to performance. Would you please welcome the one and only Mr. Espen Salberg.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear committee of the BDF. I have been asked to lecture on a topic that may be, as for English people, has something they can understand very, very quickly. The word lever is something that most of us foreigners haven't got a clue what it's all about. It is not a misprint for liver, no, and I will try and explain to you, dear overseas friends, technique, the key to performance. That word today was given me I had great help in talking to Mr. Len Goodman, simplifying things. He also simplified lever for me. So technique, the key to performance, the lever to performance. And this is a topic that is, of course, very big, very interesting, and very important. And to assist me, I need the assistance of beautiful younger people. And I have the pleasure in introducing from Italy, the current professional Latin American champion, Miss Hanna Kartunen. From the United States of America, representing Italy, former world grand finalist, British finalist, Melissa Dexter. And I'd also like to present to you All Japan professional Latin champion, Hiromi Nagai. I would like to start by trying to talk a little bit about lead and follow and the principle of the technique of how to lead and follow, because it is essential in a dancing couple. In the technique of, for example, a dance like rumba, we base, first of all, most of the things we do on a walking action. And ladies and gentlemen, you have to know how to walk to be able to dance together as a couple. Because we either walk forward, or we walk backwards, or we check a forward walk. We might delay a walk. We might do something called a delayed walk compressed. We even have something very different that you replace from a back walk to a forward, which is not the same as a normal walk. You also have delayed back walks, Latin crosses, many, many things. And they all change and decide how we can dance together. Now, if I may ask Hiromi to join me on the floor. You see, lead and follow to create a performance is not only trying to say, well, I'm going to lead another body over there. We have principles of two body weights meeting each other That should be clear to most people. But in Latin dancing, we have a key word called action. We need movement that listens to all those bongo beats in the dancing. Now, if we walk forward in rumba, there's the principle, of course, that the body goes first and the foot follows afterwards. So, would you just walk with me, Hiromi? And 2, and the 3, and the 4, and 1, and the 2, and the 3, and the 4, and 1, 2, and would you do a forward walk turn, Hiromi? Right. Stop. Just put the foot forward again. If we now go into back walks, the body does not continue and go first. The foot goes first. So you delay, and the 2, and the 3, and the 4, and 1, and the 2, and the 3, and the 4, and 1. Now, if you put one that goes forward first together with one that stays, you meet each other. So, if I let Hiromi, I'll dance a checked position, 2. Now, an important thing here that I'll come back to later, there is resistance for the man going out of that foot because he does not want to have the same amount of continuity in his body to go on to the next step if he wants to do a checked forward walk. So he don't want to have the chance to even go there. So I resist coming out of my 4 and 1 hand. That means my heel actually comes earlier off the floor. Now, checked forward walk. Now, if I lead the lady forward, so I feel now that she has the forward ongoing dip. It's almost like she leads me. And I would go. Now, if I had followed her, and come on, Hiromi, just walk, and had gone with the body first, I would have left her. So, a small thing like being in harmony with each other and feeling, understanding who does what job at the right time just by a simple walk decides for us very often how it is possible to lead and follow. Now, for example, even if I would like to lead this lovely girl into a fan. Now, she's just done a forward walk turn. Now, the performance of this is not to turn as fast as you can. It is not to say, 2, 3. You might do it, but then you change your timing. You might then say, 2 and you might be able to do it. Basically, what it is still a walk. The lady goes forward. She turns at the time when she starts the use of her hip action. From here, she's ready to step back. She's a back walk. It is not a photo finish. It is not in order to create a line. It is a back walk, and then I like now to close the lady there. I like to, what we should do, we close her. Now, how does one close a lady? Of course, that means through lead and follow, because you have to know where she is. You have to know what she is going to do next. And of course, you have to feel her body in an action way. So if we say again, walk, walk, walking forward, walk and the walk and the walk. Now I could now maybe lead her into a forward walk turn. I would do that. And I know now that I produce an action. She's changing. I'm not only trying to shape around, even though the shaping is also important, because we do want volume in our dancing. Now, if I could try and play around with leading forward and backwards, and maybe even understanding more about how to use an action, I would like to take you through a series of steps to see how you could use the technique to create a performance. I would here lead this lady from my checked forward walk into, I would say, an over-led forward, or progressive walk forward. What does over-led means? That means that I have put this lady onto a further than normal balance point. I have now tried, because I would like, through performance, to have this lady closer to me. It's almost as if to say, if I let go, she would almost fall. I would like now to lead this position into a delayed walk. So what I'm trying to do is to put the lady back into a heel weight position, using the action of her standing leg going through the various stages of compression, and of course the hip action would automatically follow. Now do again, she's coming forward, 4 and 1. If I lose, so I lead here, and we have, you see the leg, and we see how the leg act and the hip action occurs. Once she's, and then of course this is all up to if we want this tucked under, if I want her hanging further down, it is all depends on interpretation, but that is the technique underneath. Now of course the man has also delayed his position, so he is able to meet and give resistance. As I lead her into delayed walk, I count to myself, and 3, 4 and 1. I would then try and lead her into a forward walk turn. I know she's going from there, the hip goes back as the leg passes. It's all part of the walk. The depth of this, I decide through my own body as well. 2 and. I have walked to the side, and I'm going to play with the hip twist. 3. She settles into the hip, creates a little bit more feeling of the body. Okay? I decided to take her out of this by saying, and. So, I'm using the end of the, just again, she had a forward walk turn. She's done a swivel as a hip twist. This leg is trapped back. She's in the back position with the hip, which is always the case once the free leg is in a maximum bend position. I reverse her on that depth. And 2, opening out again. I reverse. Now, I don't say to her, go, right? I reverse as I do, and myself, 2. I step across, and I do my own little hip twist, 3 and 4, and I want to return to the hip twist. And I do now continuous swivels, this time on toe. I said this time on toe. Normally they are not, but I would like them to do that. Plus I'm choosing all quick beats, so it's more difficult to settle down. And 2, and then I would now whip her into that position. Sounds a bit brutal, looks a bit brutal. Sometimes it feels real good. Now from here, I have a girl who knows what it means to go from boned action, being down on the bone of her body, to go muscular up onto toes. Well, I want to use that, so I let her go, climb slowly, as I go down. She does a ronde, which I cosmetically join her in, and I spiral turn her into another catch, and we progressive walk, check, and Hiromi can relax. Now, I am going to try and do this to music. I think Hiromi is quite capable. I'm the one who's out of practice. Could we have some rumba, please? You've been a good girl. And he forgot the step. Shall we try again? I forget this. Go. Thank you, Hiromi. Thank you. "40 minutes, short time, trying to show you as much as possible, to have not only variety, but maybe to make one think and find ways of getting the old, aha, I saw something." I'd like to go on to using technique to produce body action. Having the technique as the underlying key. And if lovely Hannah could come and join me on the floor, I would like to switch on to ChaCha. If time allows, we might compare Rumba and ChaCha a little bit. In ChaCha, I find it very, very important that you can distinguish between an action and a reaction of the body. Because the construction of the ChaCha is so that if we walk on 2, or I would say 1, 2, 3 is a walk, and the 4 and is something else. Now the 1, 2, 3 has the walk. You could think a bit like the rumba, but it is a lot faster. Because in the ChaCha, we want to be able to see also with the beat of the ChaCha what the body action is doing. So whereas in a rumba, Hannah, would you walk 2, 3, 4, 1? 2 and the 3 and the 4 and 1 and. Now if you start on the 2. Now on that 2, the hip action in the rumba is theoretically supposed to start on the and count. I said theoretically. And count. Again, it depends on the dancer. It depends on how fast your body weight comes to the certain balance point of your body so that you are able to let that inclination of the pelvic bone start to occur. So very often we would say in rumba that we walk on the body foot and the hip on the and. In Cha-Cha-Cha, in order to help dancers in teaching, we very often say foot, hip together. Or in any case, earlier than what is the case in the rumba, not just on an and. So, if you would walk, Hannah, a 1, 2, 3, cha-cha, 1, 2, 3, 4, and, okay? And 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2. Okay, thank you. Now, what I'm talking about here, if we talk about action and reaction, obviously, once there is a walk, like on the 1, 2, 3, there is a walk with the full weight and the hip action coming on it. The lock step, which in theory technique says that you are going from whatever you've been on your 3, over the 4 and, the pelvic section will come to neutral. Now, coming to neutral means somewhere here. Now, of course, any good dancer will interpret that coming neutral with an awareness of a reaction coming out of the walk that was on your 3. Now, of course, then what is very, very important, that the moment the lady or anybody of the dancers had been in the locking position, just stop in the locking position, Hannah. So she has slightly flexed knees, they are tucked into each other. Now, coming out of a lock, the back leg straightening without lowering the heel, going in the direction of the next walk. That is the action. And what might occur in the body is a reaction of that leg action. We see so many people getting into a split-weighted position in order to try and do an, just put your hip back now, there. Trying to get the hip action deliberately, going out of it. If you try to just use your leg action, and in theory, your reaction is not only hip, it's your whole body coming out of that. Plus, it is very, very important. Can we have some cha-cha music, please? Then you would see the timing of that and. I want to see that reaction in a person's body. Okay, Hannah? 1, 2, 3, 4, reaction 1, 2, 3, 4, reaction 1, 2, 3, 4, reaction 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you. Now, of course, in any rhythmical dance, and I mentioned earlier on today, the word understanding what it means to be on bones of your body. Your weight basically dropped onto a trapped bone of your body. The difference between that and the muscular action where you are using muscles to basically prevent you from letting the weight lay and rest on your bones. Now, body action in Cha-Cha-Cha, of course, needs a lot of this awareness of sensing you being on bones of your body. And of course, I would also say that if you could take a lot of the Cuban motion, the Cuban action as your base for a lot of your actions in the Cha-Cha-Cha, and then so-called discipline them with what the Americans call the international style of dancing, which is what our Latin American dancing is to them, which means that you discipline your legs in a different way, but you let the body have the continuous ongoing movement of action. I will just try and do one experiment with Hannah and me together to maybe tell you one thing. We have something that means foot timing. Now, if I tried, the two of us tried to time the basic rhythm of 2, 3, 4, and 1 only with the feet, it would look like this. And 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. If we then did feet and added legs, leg action, which means awareness of pushing back above your knee, you would get part of the hip incorporated. And 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. I then said to Hannah, would you do that rhythm only with your body and your diaphragm without stepping and using the leg? So we try and we do 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Because hip action doesn't mean that you necessarily have to have a leg to push it with. Your hip bone is a one stiff part that goes from here to here across the body, and it is linked with the spine. The spine is flexible where it joins the hip bone. And I think Hannah wears a lovely dress, but that would be able to be quite visual. Hannah, would you bend your knees beautifully high on toes and only use your tailbone controlled by the curving of the spine? Right, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Now, the moment you have awareness of all these aspects, you put them together. And you get something that I hopefully, would you do 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and side, 2 and 3, okay? Try, and 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and side, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, okay? So you still got your walk and your body action. You don't do a 2 and merengue, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1. That is leg and foot dancing. Unfortunately, we very, very often think that we move so much more when we feel the legs slightly rubbery. You have to learn to discipline that better. I will just dance a little bit with Hannah because our time is running very, very short. So I'm going to try and show you to the cha-cha-cha, please. A small piece. Thank you, Hannah. So it's very, very important to understand that you have to understand what is underneath to basically understand how you can move your body and create sometimes a forced action, but very many times also a natural reaction in the Latin dances. I would like Melissa to come onto the floor. And here we have not only a great Latin dancer, but also one that has been trained to do a great leg when it's also off the floor. Been watching the last 2 days' competitions, and I do feel that there is technique in everything, you know, even if we borrow from other dance forms. Now, most of our dancers spend so much time in perfecting how to dance once they have feet on the ground. Basically, Melissa, could you stand back into a back basic of rumba? So her foot positioning there, I would say, but with the additional hip action and the body position. Could you give me a ballet position that would be quite similar in the feet and legs? And if you open the front leg, there. Now, there's the same beauty in those feet and legs, but there is a completely different way of standing in the body. Because one dance form requires body actions, the other dance form requires more movements and drifts in another way, and more positions in theory. I might be wrong there, I won't argue. Now, Melissa, can we, just to show you one thing, if we now went switching on from boned actions of Latin dancing onto muscular actions, for example, you could see very easily if Melissa went into, from a walk, okay, 4 and 1, and 2 and 3, now she is now onto a forward walk. I am going to let her basically now first delay walk this position to get more meat on the action once she's there. And then she knows, through my lead responding, how to go onto a muscular action by going onto, slowly crawling onto a toe spiral from the back foot, creating also volume of shape through the two of us. And those ankles are beautiful. And she walks again into action. If I wanted to use basically the same idea again, with more speed maybe, I would say to Melissa, I'm going to lead you into an overturned open hip twist, right? She would do an overturned fan, and she would go quickly up to that position, do the same exit, right, and then she walks again. So you could play with the impact of performance, doing one as a slow crawling with the same technique underneath, the other one with a faster action and 2. Melissa has great awareness of her free leg if it's off the air, or it's in the air, off the floor. Now if I lead you into a back sit, Melissa, right, okay. Now she can actually, she said, how high do you want it? That's basically what she says to me with the leg. I said, high looks nice, Melissa. That is not the key issue. Like Melissa says to me many times, when you are trained for this, it is so sad to see how many girls just try to get it as high as possible and then suffer completely because in the body position, looking ugly on the outside. Can you try, Melissa? Can you try? Well, turn that, well, that still looks aesthetically quite good. Okay. Anyway, basically, talking about this, competitive dancing has so much in it and so much technique that there is technique in everything you do. It is not just technique. It's basically also technique just on how to stand, how to present yourself. Technique is the key to make you look like you are better. But I must say, this is in order to get performance. And let me just stress one point before we finish, that performance in the end is the most important thing. And technique must not be the thing that blocks you, that stops you. It should be the thing that makes you develop and become that much better. Now, time is running very quick, and seeing that I have such good dancers here with me, I would like to finish off with something that actually says performance. So as the girls get ready, I would like to thank the BDF committee for inviting me. It's been quite a few years, but it's not their fault. It's basically I hate doing this. I don't like to lecture, but I think now and again one should. And I've been suffering today, and I'm so relieved that it's now over. And it is also very, very nerve-wracking when my great teacher sits and watches. Walter Laird, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. So, a thank to Melissa, a thank to Hannah, a thank to Hiromi, thank to you all. There's a piece called Say So So.